Welcome to this .NET Word Library tutorial. In this video, I will show you how to build an AI-powered Word document summarizer using the Syncfusion .NET Word Library. This video covers creating a C# console application, reading content from a Word document, and generating a summary using Azure OpenAI. The prerequisites for this tutorial are Visual Studio 2022 or later, the .NET 8.0 SDK or later, and the necessary credentials for your Azure OpenAI account. First, I'll create the console application in Visual Studio. I open Visual Studio and select Create a new project from the dashboard. From the list of templates, select Console App and click Next to continue. Then, I enter the project name and click Next again. I proceed with the default configuration and click Create to generate the application. Project is now ready to use. I open the NuGet Package Manager and navigate to the Browse tab. I search for the Syncfusion docio.NET Core package, click Install, and choose Apply to add the package to the project. Then, I search for Azure AI OpenAI and click Install. This enables the .NET application to connect to Azure OpenAI models to generate AI-powered summaries. This is the input document I will use in this example. It contains an overview of AdventureWorks cycles, highlighting bicycle products with their specifications and pricing. I open the program CS file and import the required namespaces for the application. The Syncfusion docio or DLS package is used to read and process Word documents. The Azure AI OpenAI package is used to connect the application to Azure OpenAI services. The OpenAI chat namespace serves as a communication bridge between the application and the AI model. The system client model is used for API authentication. In the main method, I declare a string variable to store the Azure OpenAI API key. You'll use your own credentials here. Next, I define the execute summarization method, which collects user inputs, validates them, and initiates the document summarization process. Inside this method, I first display a title in the console using console WriteLine to indicate that this is an AI-powered Word summarizer. Then, I enter the code that prompts users to enter the file path of the Word document to be summarized. I declare a string variable and use console readLine to read the user input. I trim the input to remove any extra spaces or quotation marks. Next, the user has to enter the desired number of sentences for the summary. Again, I use console readLine to read the input and store it in another variable. After collecting the inputs, I perform validation checks. First, I check whether the file path is null or whether the file does not exist. If it is invalid, I display an error message and exit the method. Second, I check whether the summary length input is null or not a valid integer. If the validation fails, I display a message and exit. I also verify whether the Azure OpenAI API key is provided. If it is missing, I print an error message and stop the execution. Once all the inputs are validated, I use a try-catch block to handle any runtime errors safely. In the try block, I perform the document summarization process. I define another helper method, summarize Word content, which reads the content from a specified Word document, sends it to Azure OpenAI for summarization, and saves the generated summary to a new Word document. I first initialize the Word document instance for opening the existing Word document. Next, I define a system prompt, which instructs the AI model to generate a concise and meaningful summary of the document content. I retrieve the text content of the Word document using the getText method. I close the document to release the resource. Now, the document content has been successfully read. I define another helper method, Ask Azure OpenAI Async, that uses Azure OpenAI to summarize the extracted text. In this method, I create an instance of Azure OpenAI client with the endpoint URL, an API key, which is used to establish a connection with the Azure OpenAI service. I create a chat client using the getChatClient method by providing the model name. This acts as the communication layer between the application and the AI model. Next, I create a chat completion request. In this request, I define a system chat message, which provides instructions to the AI model, and a user chat message that contains the word document data to be summarized. The AI model processes these messages and generates a summary. I extract the summarizer content from the response and store it in a variable. I then return the generated summary from the response. Back in the summarize word content method, I define a variable and invoke the Ask Azure OpenAI async method to send the extracted text to Azure OpenAI and receive the summarized content. Next, I create a Word document instance and invoke the ensure minimal method, which adds a default section and paragraph to the document. I add the summarized content to the document using the append text method. I then save the document by specifying the file path and file name. I close the document to release the associated resources. Back in the execute summarization method, inside the try block, I invoke the summarize word content method and pass 3 parameters: the Azure OpenAI API key, the document file path, and the sentence count. In the main method, I invoke the execute summarization method. Finally, I save and run the application. I enter the file path of the document I want to summarize and specify the number of sentences for the summary. When I open the file, you can see that the document content has been successfully summarized. That's all for the video. In this video, I have shown you how to build an AI-powered Word document summarizer using the Syncfusion .NET Word Library. You can download the working example for this video from the GitHub link in the description below. I have also shared a link to learn how to obtain a free license key for our document SDK if you are eligible for our community license. If you found this video helpful, like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching.